Remember, Robbie is teaching the teens this quarter, right? So you've got me for a month, and then you've got Eric for a month, and then you've got Jerry for 5 weeks. I looked it up, brother. You get the Jerry. Are you sure?
Oh yeah, I checked. I got 4.
Well, Sheila checked, and she told me 5.
You can't believe Sheila.
Okay, Eric's got 5. Sorry about that. Well, good choice. Eric's got 5. I actually have 5 because I'm going to do the same material on Wednesday while Robbie's visiting. So, had no clue, had not heard Robbie's sermon, what he was going to be teaching, but it's kind of interesting. Some of the stuff he hit on is a introduction to what we're going to look at for 5 lessons, because it is on Christian evidences. I just thought it was interesting as Robbie kept talking on his points. He brought up and hit some of the highlights with that. So we're going to try to look. I thought 5 lessons would be good on that topic. You could probably do a whole quarter on it. I'm sure you could, but we'll try to look at some material the next 3 classes on specifics, things that for us as Christians can help increase our faith, looking at our body that God created, looking at the universe, looking at all these things and looking at all these amazing facts that can help strengthen us in our faith as a Christian, because we know when we're thinking about Christian evidences, I think of 2 things in particular, helping us to be strengthened in our faith, to look at these things and go, man, how awesome and how incredible is God to have done this and this and this and this. But secondly, to have some kind of preparation for those people who don't believe in God. And there are people who don't believe in God. Let me tell you some statistics that I looked up. And this is from the Gallup poll, which I think is still apparently pretty accurate. From the years 1944 through 2011, those who said they believed in God, it was over 90%. It would fluctuate a little during the polls, but from 1944 all the way up to 2011, it was 90% plus people who were polled said they believed in God. In 2017, that took a dip below 90%. For apparently the first time, it dipped down to 87%. So down below 90. And then this is shocking to me. In 2022, we've dipped another 6%. 81% of those who were polled in 2022, 81% said they believed in God. So we kind of trucked along for many years, 9 out of 10 or more. Took a hit in 2017. And then now, those people that we look around, 2 out of 10 that we come in contact with, on average, 2 out of 10, 20%, they don't believe in God. So that requires us to have a different mindset when we go to study with them. We can't go to God's Word like we can our religious friends. Our religious friends that are in denominations that believe in God, 80%, we can start with the Bible. We can and should start with the Bible to teach them. But we've got 20% of folks out there running around that does not believe in God. So I think we need to think about Christian evidences and things that we can present to them before we really can open the Bible. Because when you start to open the Bible, they're like, I don't believe in that. You kidding me? I don't believe in God. Why are you opening the Bible? I don't hear the Bible. Don't believe in God. So if they don't believe in God, there's little to no chance they're going to believe in anything that God's Word has to say. Yes.
I was going to point out that I think a lot of people claim to be religious, but they don't believe in the Bible.
Well, yes, there is a group there too.
They only want to believe in parts of it that make them happy.
Well, yeah,
The fuller truth of it.
we've got those religious people, 80% who believe in God, They don't believe everything the Bible teaches, and they like to pick and choose. But we have a different approach with those 80%. Look at the Bible. Study the Bible. Go verse by verse and help them to understand, because there are a lot of people who claim to be religious. I believe in God. I believe in heaven, but I pick and choose what the Bible has to say. We're not for these 5 lessons, we're not going into, those folks and how to teach them. We've got good study materials, we've got Bible studies, we've got guides, we've got the Word to help us with those 80. But I thought for us to strengthen our faith and to also have some kind of preparation for those 20% out there that they don't believe in God. So opening God's Word to try to help them understand things is not where we really have to begin with them. We have to talk to them about. Today what we're going to talk about is atheism, because those who don't believe in God, what are they called? They're atheists. Atheism means without God. There is no God. So we're going to talk about those 20% and look at 3 things that atheism cannot explain. So you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, you're part of that 20%. Let's look look at 3 things that your belief cannot explain.
Those atheists, whenever their approach and give an example of not just painting a picture in the Bible where some sin and go by, and they still don't believe in God, they cannot say on Judgment Day, I didn't know.
That they didn't know. And I'm not saying we shouldn't use the Bible to try to teach everyone. We should. But they're not going to be convinced most of the time on using the Bible, because they don't believe in the Bible, because they don't believe in God. So if we also have in our toolbox some things that we can use, like, okay, you're an atheist. Let's see you explain our first one. Robbie mentioned morality. That's where we're going to start. But those statistics are really concerning. 90-something% bouncing along from 50, 60 years. 2017, 87. 2022, 81. So we see which way we're trending. And we know how things are in our country. It's going to, unless there's changes by Christians and putting forth effort to teach folks, that's going to continue to go down. So let's start by reading Hebrews 3. I want you to go there if you will. I'm going to read the first 4 verses for us to put our mindset on, and then we're going to try to look at these 3 points today. Atheism cannot explain, and we'll look at those very briefly. So here in Hebrews 3, the first 4 verses. Therefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of our confession, Jesus Christ Jesus, who was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was faithful in all his house. For this one has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he who built the house has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but he who built all things is God. And we know that, and we're convinced of that, and we're assured of that, and reading the Scriptures helps convict us of that. So those of us who believe in God, who believes in the Bible as it's written, we totally get that. But we need to keep that in the back of our mind. Every house is built by someone, but he who built all things is God. So before we go into the first thing, let me read through some of this. Some of it's really, really thought-provoking. We as Christians need to be reminded that there's sound reasons for believing in God, both spiritual and scriptural reasons that we have in the Word, and then just having a brain and looking around us. So we need to know there's sound reasons for believing in God. It is not a leap of faith, as some in the school system or those that are atheists would say. What a leap of faith. We're going to get into that. You want to talk about a leap of faith, talk about atheism. So we don't have a leap in faith. There's sound reasons for us to believe in God. And we need to be able to defend the truth about God and about His existence. We are all going to come in contact with atheists in our lifetime, 20%. I don't know how it is around here. Some places are more than others, of course. We may have 10%. We may have 25%. Who knows? But on average in the U.S., about 20%. So we're going to come in contact with atheists. So we've got to be able to explain to them their stance on trying to propose there is no God. And remember, they don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe in the Bible. So reading them 20 or 30 scriptures without having some discussion about atheism and without their idea is not going to be as effective. So we have two choices. There's either God or there is no God. There's atheism, no God, or there's theism, God. So let's look at these three things. We'll try to get them all in today. Atheism cannot explain morality. Cannot explain morality. That's one of the biggest problems with the stance on atheism is they've got to have a conclusion on morality because morality exists. If there is no God, then there is no morality giver. There is no entity that sets morality. And if there is no God and there is no morality giver, then there has to either be no morality or something else that created morality. And atheists, a lot of them will argue that the law, that's what sets morality. Our laws that we set forth, that's our morality. The laws of the land, because they don't believe in God. So if there's no God setting morality, it must be those in charge telling us what's right and what's wrong. That's our morality. Yes, Mark?
Yeah, well, that's where the laws come from.
They should.
Most of them.
They should. We know.
Well, let's say that a long time ago, that's where the
Yeah. There has to be.
laws, like, all over the place.
That's okay.
I think that most atheists would say it's humanism is where morality.
Well, and again, that comes from humans, and in essence, though either humans make morals or God made moral. Either our leadership does it, or some form of humanity makes morality. So they would say then, either since God is not the entity on morality, it's either humans, or the other conclusion, there is no morality. There's people who believe that humans make morality, our leaders, our country, or whatever. There's others who say there is no morality. And there's others who say it's up to each person. There is no morality. Every person's feelings go with your feelings, or it's created by man, or it's created by God. So let's talk about, first of all, going by our feelings creating our own morality, or there not being morality. Tie those two together. There is no morality, or what I feel is right, what you feel is right, what you feel is right, what you feel is right. There's a huge problem with that because everybody's different, if y'all didn't notice that. What about Jeffrey Dahmer? What was his thought on morality?
Didn't know what time you would ask. I don't think he had.
He didn't until he apparently obeyed the gospel before he died. But what was his thought about human life? His initial mindset was there is no morality. What I do is what I do. What you do is what you do. If it's all right with you, it's all right. Of course, it's not. Yes.
Even liars, cheaters, murderers rationalize in their own mind why they did it. Because people say, well, how can they live with themselves? Because they have convinced themselves by their feelings that what they did was okay.
And so in their own mind, or if it's us, we rationalize too. We are being the moral standard. It's okay to lie in this situation. It's okay to kill in this situation. Remember, 80% now, still 80% of people believe in God. But up until the law was changed, many people had no problem with abortion. It was situational murder. It's okay. Rationalize it. It's inconvenient. I won't provide a good home for this child. All these all these things to rationalize doing it. But if there's no God as the ultimate morality giver, it's up to each one of us. Jeffrey Dahmer was fine if there is no God. His morality was just as good as anyone else's. He killed and ate people. Well,
I run into an atheist, which really blindsided me. 1 mile from our church.
yeah.
It was 1 mile down the road. When I went to see him, he would just shut it down real quick. But standing there talking to him, because I continued to try to talk to him, he would be just as nice a person as anybody. He's not a Jeffrey Dahmer.
So his morality probably is pretty decent,
Yeah.
or compared to others.
But how do you get to a guy like you're saying? How are you able to penetrate that person enough to finally have a conversation with him?
Well, and things like this, if there is no God, there is no morality setter, then we either have no morals or each person can have their own. And, you know, would talk to him about, was Jeffrey Dahmer okay? He had no moral issue with what he did early on. He had no problem with it. He didn't see any issue with killing and eating. He didn't have any problem with that. His morals said, this is okay because I want to do it. This is what I want to do. There is no God in his mind. I'll do it. Well, of course, our law said, no, you won't. And, well, he did, but he did have to pay the price for that. So there has to be either a morality giver, or there are no morals, or everyone has their own. And a lot of atheists won't acknowledge this. If you try to get them to, well, what about morality? Who do you think, what entity do you think sets morality? They either have to say the law of our land or ourselves, or there is none. Those are the only options they've got if you take God out of it. So which way is it? Who sets our morals? Are there some morals? And a good person who's an atheist has some morals. Some, they do, like you said.
Like an evolution of humanism is like the pack mentality, is like a wolf pack or whatever. They have rules, and they set them, and it's evolved, whatever. And so they think that morality comes from just the evolution of humans.
Yeah, but humans are different. So that's a flawed theory in their mind. If humanity sets morals, humanity varies greatly. So if you're an atheist, is it your morals we should follow? Or if I'm atheist, what about mine? Mine's as good as yours. So there's
On one atheist, though, I think they think that in a broad sense it's the humanist kind of moral.
they do, absolutely. Humanism is what sets the morals. But even in that, they can vary because there is no standard. There is no standard.
Countries have different,
Exactly.
there was cannibalism, there was,
In not,
guy that you ran into, I bet you he got his morals from grandma.
yeah.
There's somebody else that got their morals from little boy. Well, yeah, because even a dog loves a baby.
What happened to Nazi Germany after the war ended? What happened to those in charge that had committed those atrocities? What happened to the Nazi regime that was in charge of... They were tried and killed. While this was going on in Nazi Germany, it was not illegal. It was totally legal what was going on. So the law said we can absolutely persecute and kill these undesirables. It was legal by Nazi Germany law because Hitler was in charge and he was a lunatic. But it was not illegal to kill in those circumstances. Just like in our country, until recent, it wasn't illegal to kill the unborn. But these people were put to death. They were hanged. They were taught because some things ought not to be done. And most people, even atheists, would agree some things ought not to be done. They just shouldn't. Little babies who are helpless and inside their mother should not be put to death. They just shouldn't. A country should not try to exterminate a group of people like Nazi Germany did. That shouldn't be done.
I'm gonna ask you a question. In your statistics, did you see, I've ran into way more people that are agnostic as opposed to atheist. I've ran into very few people in my life that are 100% atheist.
Right.
So did they list that statistic?
No,
I'm
the
curious.
Gallup poll, when they put specific questions out, and this was specific, has been for this whole time frame, do you believe in God? So it was just belief in God. Yeah, so that's why I think we think it looks like a small amount, 20%, but that's a lot of people when you add them all up in our country. No, this was just, the questions that was asked was, do you believe in God? Interestingly, and this has always been the case, fewer people believe in the same Gallup polls, fewer people believe in hell than they do, in Satan as they do in God. So these religious surveys that are sent out have a lot of questions on it. And I think it was less than 70% believed in Satan. So more people believe in God now, around 81%, less than 70. So there's a group of people, and we won't talk about them because that's a whole different ball game, but there's a group of people that, interestingly enough, believe in God, but they don't believe in Satan, around 10+%. But atheism cannot explain morality. There are certain things that shouldn't be done. They know that. Well, who sets the standard? Nazi Germany didn't set the standard. Our country didn't set the standard for all these Roe versus Wade years where millions of babies were killed. Some things ought not to be done. It's not moral. It's not right. Even simple things. I don't remember, y'all probably know who, but a president shouldn't hold up traffic at an airport so he can get a $200 haircut. The airport shouldn't be shut down. Something simple like that. That's not moral. All these little things that happen, there's just things that shouldn't happen. Do y'all know which president that was? Was it Clinton? Well, he had to look good. I don't know. Some president held up an airport for, No. Was it Clinton? So some president held up the whole airport while he got a haircut there. But that's not right. Killing's not right. There's things that are moral. So back to these Nazis, they were obeying German law. They were not under the law of the United States. They were not subject to the law of the United States. So when these trials happen in Nuremberg, the prosecutor there put this argument forth because they were not going against any German law at the time, but they were nevertheless convicted and hanged. So this statement he made is one that's very, very good, very powerful. He said, there is a higher law which transcends the province, I can't say that word, like a province, provincial, which transcends the provincial and the transient. And the point is there's a higher standard than what we have in our specific country and nation at a time. There is a higher law than man, depending on where you live and when you live. Well, where does that higher law come from? Standards that God set forth that hopefully over the course of history most countries have followed to some extent or the other. So there is a higher law, but the atheism cannot explain morality. If there's no higher standard that's absolute, we either have no standard, we either have standards that are set by our leaders, or we have individual standards. What's right to me is right to me. What's right for you is right for you. So that's not morality. That's just everybody doing their own thing.
One thing they can't explain is their own existence.
No, they can't. And we're getting to that number next life. So the second thing atheism cannot explain is life. And there's two choices here. There's only two choices. Life came from an all-powerful, supernatural entity, being. Or life did not come from an all-powerful being, and it just happened some way, somehow, in some format. So coming to explain life, those are the two choices we've got off the bat.
So, when I was younger, we had a preacher that gave an example I thought was really good to use in this kind of situation when you're talking with someone about creationism and evolution and that kind of thing. And what he said, he had a little paper sack up on the podium. He says, in this paper sack, I have all the pieces and parts to make a watch.
Yeah.
He says, this watch is, and you will probably agree, is not nearly as complex or intricate as a human is. He goes, but I can shape this bag for 1,000,000 years, and it's never going to become a watch.
Yeah.
Somebody, a watchmaker, putting it together. I just thought that was a really good
It is.
example.
It is, and I've heard some good examples from debates between creation versus evolution. But atheism, no God cannot explain life. They just can't, because the idea of life just happening, the idea of that watch just happening, it's totally ignorant. And anybody with a brain knows that. You take that watch. Now, here's what they do with the billions of years theory that's thrown out there. And this earth is not billions of years old. Nobody, please don't buy that. But what they do with that is try to make us think that if there's this enormous amount of time, it's possible. Anything's possible. That watch, if it sits in that bag for 20 billion years, it's possible. So they do this big, long time frame to try to make us think things that still can't be. So there either had to be life given by a being, or it just happened. Now, how many times in your lifetime have you seen some form of life spring up from nothing, from a rock, from a piece of dust? Have you ever just been sitting looking at that, hair bunny? What do you call it when the dog's hair? Huh? Dust bunny? How many times have you been sitting looking at that dust bunny, and after a few weeks, it starts crawling? It's now alive. That inanimate object of hair and dirt and whatever, it's now alive.
Well, you know, when we get older, we
Huh?
can see them things.
Well, seeing it move means you've had too much sugar and you shouldn't have eaten all that stuff,
Start going.
But that have you ever seen that come to life? No. If you, Mark, all right, go ahead.
I've been at people's houses, man. You look down, there's so much dirt on the floor, just moving.
Well,
Stuff in there.
if there's a little breeze, you're likely to see all kinds of things. All right, let me change that. How many times in your lifetime have you seen that dust bunny finally sprout legs? Because that amoeba that somehow started, it eventually sprang a tail, and so it could swim, and then it eventually sprang some legs so it could crawl, and then it eventually became Mark. I'm sorry. How many times has that thing sprung? You could watch that for 1,000,000 years, and we're smart enough to know that's not coming alive. This bench. Are you really worried that this bench is going to suddenly rise up and start smacking all of y'all over here? Herschel, does that worry you? You look worried. That's not happening. We know that. Not in 1 year, not in 200 million years.
A highly scientific term that explains everything.
Yes, we do.
Sprang.
Huh?
Sprang.
Sprang into
Sprang
existence.
forth.
Yes.
Life sprang forth out of nothing.
Yes.
Sprang here, sprang
Yeah, what does that mean? It sprang.
That's the term.
You go even further back, it's all about the Big Bang. It's the Big Bang.
Okay.
Anybody that says the Big Bang, you say, well, what caused the Big Bang?
What caused it? And where did the matter come from to bang?
Yeah, where did it come from?
Life cannot be explained by atheism, because no matter how long you leave that thing there, it's not gonna come alive. Scientific studies prove that life does not come from non-life. Ever. That's a scientific principle. So when people want to separate God from science, there couldn't be anything farther than the truth. The Bible and God's account for us of what happened lines up perfectly with science. Life does not come from non-life. So atheism cannot explain to the atheist why he's here. It can't. How did you get here? How did you get here? If there's no God, how did you get here? Well, they don't believe in Adam and Eve. They'll even, if it's in the Bible, they don't believe it. I mean, they know something had to happen, but atheism can't explain life. It either had to be from an all-powerful being, which it was in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. He created all things. He created us. So they have to believe. Now, I mentioned earlier a leap of faith. You want to talk about a leap of faith? You have to believe that stuff started from absolutely nothing, for no reason. How stupid is that? That is a leap of faith. That's a mega leap of faith for you to have to believe, well, there was nothing, and then there was. It just happened. Because there was billions of years. And anything can happen in billions of years. Well, the earth ain't billions of years old. We know roughly about how old it is. It's not billions, it's a few thousand, and it didn't happen. Life cannot come.
They'll say it was just the right kind of chemicals and the right mix.
Yeah.
The right recipe.
So, whatever they want to do that, there's two problems. Like I mentioned, science has yet to record one single instance where life came from non-life. Dust bunnies don't become bunnies. Ever. Never, ever, ever. So if matter, this is what the atheist has to believe. That if God didn't create, then just matter created. Stuff started creating different stuff. So then they have to go a step farther. So matter is what created, not a God, not God. So they have to believe that matter created all of this, and they also have to believe that matter is eternal. Because if there was no creator, then all this stuff just had to always be.
Can't explain where matter came from.
No, they cannot. If matter exists, now there's something that always had to exist. Here's another law. It's called, which law is it? It's the first or second law. Guess what's happening with matter and has been happening with matter since God created it?
Each gets smaller.
Talk about the second law of thermodynamics.
Second. I knew it was a first or second.
He brought it up in the sermon the other day, and I researched it all. But yes, it basically energy in a contained environment stays contained, and we don't lose any energy. However, in the real environment, you get entropy.
Entropy.
Yeah, entropy.
Yes.
And that means the energy is still there.
It's there.
It doesn't go away, but it becomes unusable.
It's
It goes
unusable.
away and basically kind of goes out and not usable.
So it's declining because that energy is not available for future use. So we're doing this. And we don't know how long. We do know how long until God says that's it. So God could easily let things just wind out until it's all wound out, but He could also stop it at any time and say the end while there's still matter. But matter has not always existed. We know that. Usable matter is decreasing. So the idea the atheist has to have of, it's already 12 o'clock. The idea that the atheist has to have is matter created, which is ridiculous, and secondly, that matter had to be eternal. So another leap of faith. They will not believe in an eternal God, but they'll believe in an eternal dust bunny. That matter has always existed. No, it's not. Our second law of, thank you, that was it, the second. I couldn't remember if it was first or second. Second law of thermodynamics says that usable energy is continually decreasing. So what we have that God created is declining. And we don't know how long.
You say it was reclining?
Decline, dropping.
It is.
Yeah. The energy that, the matter that God created, it's slowly declining. So if God doesn't end the world at some point on His own, eventually it just all goes. And I don't know how long that takes. Scientists know that. I think it's a very, very slow decline. I should have looked up that statistic. But we don't have the amount of usable energy. Huh? They do.
They think they're gonna stop it. They think they're gonna stop the decline. They're not gonna stop the decline.
Well, don't you wonder about somewhere out there, something's still there. You have to make an effort to be a Christian. I mean, you got to get up on Sunday and get dressed and go. I think some, I don't know if they're atheists or they just, it's convenient.
Yeah.
They don't have to make an effort, they just get up in the morning.
Yeah, there's no doubt there's different levels of atheism. Those who are just adamant, there's no God, don't believe anything about God. And then there's others who are more, well, maybe there is, maybe there's not. But
And I'm not sure like Jeffrey Dahmer, was he an atheist in the beginning or?
his morality was warped because he felt like everybody's morality was their own. And since he had no problem with killing and cannibalizing, there wasn't nothing wrong with it. Cool.
That's what you take into mind.
Yeah. We'll pick up here Wednesday night. Help me remember we got to life. Atheism cannot explain life, and we'll pick back up there.